Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I am the Fuzz, and I'm here to entertain you. And in this video, I want to talk about something that I've been kind of thinking about for some time, but couldn't really put names and terminology to it. So now I have decided to address it. So what I want to talk about is the concept of positive advantage and negative advantage. So there's been a lot of talk about the upcoming patch, and the hot topic of the day, of course, is Bloodseeking Mutant, which seems to be dominating trials and constructed, and it just seems to be a ridiculous card. It basically played in every deck that can play it because of how strong it is. But they got me thinking about another card that is also very strong, that is also played in just about anything that can play it, and yet nobody thinks that it's overpowered, and that is Library Guards, right? Here, I'll keep the creatures along as we go. Library Guards, where are you, my friend? This guy has been very highly played for a very long time. And it's really easy to see why. Just the battle cry of drawing a card is very potent on top of a body that's, you know, pretty decent. So how come this card isn't causing outcries of, hey, it's broken, but something like Mutant is? And this is where the concept comes in. The difference between Mutant and Library Guards is that Library Guards creates value for the player who played him. Well, not specifically create, but you draw a card, so you get more options. Mutant takes it away from your opponent by, you know, weakening his creatures or killing his creatures. And that's the difference. And it is in the same way why Splitting Headaches, which was discard 2 for 2, was extremely annoying. But Ancient Wisdom, which is draw 2 for 2, nobody really minds, because again, you don't mind your opponent drawing 2 cards so much as you mind discarding 2 cards of your own. This probably has something to do with the whole concept of a bird in a bush. Bird in the hand is worth like 2.5 birds in the bush. Some experiment that they did where something that you have is worth more than something you don't currently have, versus if you lost that something, it'd be more valuable. But basically, what all this comes down to is it hurts a lot more to lose your stuff than it is for your opponent to gain an equivalent amount of stuff. And this phenomenon is shown here with Library Guards. Your opponent draws a card, whatever. Mutant is actively killing your stuff. I mean, it's not even talking about the fact that it's basically removal on legs that you can put on the back row. It just stays there, and you know your opponent is really sad because every turn, the effect of putting a negative counter on something and gaining a positive counter on your creature is not trivial. And so getting this for free every turn with a growing creature and consistently controlling the board is really nasty. And that's why this card is kind of been oppressing the meta. But this goes a little bit further than just Mutant. This isn't the first card that has the negative value attached to it. One of the most egregious card of this kind is Karthus. He's the purest example of negative value you can possibly have. He simply destroys a creature. There you go. But there isn't a legendary that like creates a creature. So between Karthus and Mutant, and there's lots of cards like this in Spellweaver, like Cataclysms, like various, you know, board wipes and removal, but it goes further than that. Hero powers compound this even further. Think about how many hero powers do we have that have negative value, as in they take away from your opponent. Let's take a look. Cathedral of the Night. Removal with life gain. It's just consistent removal, right? You've got Sanctum. Again, just freely killing creatures. Then you've got Advanced Zash, who has a board wipe every 3 turns. 3 damage to everything is a lot. And again, at no cost, basically. None of these have any cost attached to them. And, okay, Altar of Dragons. Okay, this one at least has a cost. But again, it's more hero powers that remove. You combine this with something like Advanced Despino, which actively steals your opponent's creatures. Helm, which steals your opponent's creatures. And then Drela, which also steals creatures. We have a lot of tools in the game to take away from your opponent, but very few that actually just give you stuff. In fact, how many hero powers do we have that actually give you something for free? This one tries, you know, giving you a totem, maybe, but totems kind of suck. The Alexa power that summons angels, that could work, but again, these angels are not spawned from thin air. They are your cards, and if your opponent kills them, that's one less angel that you have. of the actual hero powers that, you know, that actually create something, that create a creature, we have 3. 3 that actually spawn something. Alexa, the most basic example, and perhaps, even though it's kind of abused right now, perhaps one of the few good examples where you just get a dude. It's a very small dude. It's very comparable to Paladin from Hearthstone. You know, someone's like one of the weakest creatures possible, right? And that's cool. The thing is, this is most often just used to either sack it with Devious Plot for removal or sacrifice it for card draw. Now, I don't actually mind that. That's a really cool engine. And if it wasn't for the obnoxiousness of Mutant, Path, and Karthus, it would actually be pretty cool. And one of the standouts in the positive value category. Other than that, the only heroes that can do that, you've got Coronis, who would be pretty cool. The problem is because you have to pay life to summon the Ravens. If the Raven is removed, then you're getting increasingly more and more damage on yourself to the point where you can no longer summon them. And that becomes a problem because the Raven actually has to hit. You have to do damage to summon the 2/2 Raven, and that Raven has to actually hit for you to even get back the life. So it's not so simple. Yes, if they stick around, they get bigger, and that's really cool, but that rarely happens. And the only other one is Elrike, which is one of the coolest powers we have that actually spawns a creature that you can control that can be really powerful. But again, this is limited by the fact that if you just do any damage to it, it's killed. Still, what we need is more abilities like this, and preferably on neutral shrines that just give the player using them some kind of an advantage, more cards to use against their opponent. Because if you guys remember, in the older days, the battles between the control decks were really, really dumb because each player was armed with such a powerful arsenal of removal tools, both in hero powers and just cards. You would never want to play a creature because you play something, Karthus killed it, or you played something, Helm took it, or hell, the most retarded example, you play something, Despina steals your Karthus and uses that to kill your guy, taking away not only the creature you just played, but a powerful creature later on you could have played. So it became really, really obnoxious, and there's no way for other kinds of decks to counteract this by trying to create their own advantage. Really, card draw is all we have, and the guys that can create creatures, they just can't quite keep up, and that's a real shame. I want more positive value stuff. Give us a legendary. Okay, think like Neptulon from Hearthstone. That's one of my favorite cards because it comes into play and you get a bunch of Murlocs. Yeah, they're not great, but it's a bunch of cards to play with, right? That's awesome. So I don't know what kind of cards we have coming out in the future, but I do hope it's some kind of, you know, cards or legendaries that produce value for you to play with, so that you can play a control deck where you try to beat your opponent by actually just having more stuff to work with instead of just killing everything they play and basically draining them of life, because that's a really depressing way to play. So yeah, anyways, regarding, I also want to throw in a few cents on some of the cards, because we know that Mutant's going to be changed, we just don't know how. I do hope they don't kill it. Mutant is a cool design. The problem with it is its ability to remove let me just get back to it. Its ability to remove creatures is just, he can do it from the support route. That is really bad. I mean, there's a few ideas. One would be to just make it so that he has to be on the front to be able to drain something, so he's actually killable. Because with him having 3 attack, he dodges Assassinate, and Fireball is seen less now because Rage is just played less. It's just hard to kill this guy, and that's really bad. Or make the effect take place at the end of your turn, so he doesn't come in and immediately kill. He comes in, okay, but then your opponent's board is still intact. You have to end your turn before you actually get the effect, so that your opponent doesn't have to worry about you just constantly draining his board. Now, Mutant's not the only card that's been causing some issues. The whole interaction between Path of Transcendence and Karthus, really Path of Transcendence is the real offender, because the idea is really cool, where you get to just kind of ascend creatures. Okay, hang on. Whoops. You get to kind of ascend creatures, and it is actually, if you think about it, a way to generate value, because you're putting counters on your creatures, and that's really cool. The problem is that it just ends up being abused like hell, because a creature can be ascended any number of times, and each time it triggers a battle cry. And because a lot of our cards are negative value cards like Karthus, it's unlimited negative value. Free Karthus every turn, removal, and it really is dumb. And now that you can no longer like avoid it, even if you destroy the path, that Karthus is still gonna come in and get a free kill. It's just really bad. Basically, first of all, they gotta lower the cost. 3 is a little bit much. They could make it 2, even 1. I think cost of 1 was cool. They just needed to make it. You can keep the effect where you can bring the creatures back. That's fine. I mean, hell, they should even be able to come back without the counter. So, okay, you try to ascend them, but your opponent destroyed it. Okay, the creature comes back with no counter, whatever. But that way, at least, you don't get completely screwed. But maybe don't make them always have Swift, because one of the things that annoys me about this, besides the whole unlimited Karthus free special value for days, is you can basically keep a creature under it, it comes out with Swift, goes face, and it goes right back on their path. So even any creature, even ones without battle cries, become really annoying to deal with because you cannot interact with them outside of combat tricks. So remove the Swift, make it like 1 mana or 2 mana, and if the creature comes out with the path being destroyed, it doesn't get a counter. So it's like it tried to ascend, but fail. Unfortunately, you know, a unicorn showed up and pointed its horn at it or something. So that'll be that. Make this less obnoxious. Karthus will be Karthus, boys will be boys, right? Whatever. Although I do think Karthus is a bit of a design limitation on the game. But we'll cover that in a different video. And what else? Soldiers, right? Soldiers have been like kind of annoying because since Alexa can guarantee a soldier on turn 1, she doesn't have to run 1-drops. She has a 1-drop in the form of her hero power. Summon a dude, right? And okay, this is not a great card. Like, you probably wouldn't run this in your deck, but you get it for free as a hero power. That's pretty good, right? But then you've got, between this, guards, and the tactician, you can just have such a ridiculous curve where your opponent can't keep up because you're just... With lacking board clears in this game, Cataclysm is too late, and Fire Blast is only in one aspect. Other aspects just can't deal with this. You go Militia turn 1, guards, then the Night Recruiter, which is now a 5/5, and then a Tactician makes your entire board do like 16 damage or something, or 14 damage. It's ridiculous. And your opponent doesn't have much recourse to this. You know, Nature can try, but the thing is, these decks are now deploying Mutant to counter that. Now, yes, if Mutant gets changed, yay, but this kind of deck, it just becomes the new Rage aggro, where rather than killing you through burn, they just put so much crap on the board you can't possibly keep up. And especially since these guys can get up to 2 speed, they actually become like legitimate fighting forces on the battlefield, because it's not that hard to buff them. The soldiers have a hero power, you just put the counter on it by what's it called, Soldier's Memorial. There you go. Put a soldier from the graveyard on the bottom of your deck, get a free counter. If you put it on Militia, you actually get a 2/2 Militia with 2 speed. That's not a trivial creature. That matters. And Cavalry Field Captain can make it a 3-speed creature. That's really good. Now, I'm not saying Militia's overpowered or anything. I just wish that we had more ways to like deal with just massive numbers of creatures outside of like Fire Blast. So other aspects just can't keep up. I mean, Corruption, if they go super zombie, you know, if they get a better curve, they might actually overpower them. But we don't want the game to come down to who drew the better curve, right? That's not interesting. What is this, Hearthstone Face Hunter Olympics or something? So we'll have to see what happens with the soldiers. I don't think it's like a simple solution. Maybe just a few tweaks. I do like this card. I hope they don't change this one. It's really cool because it's a combat trick. It's a defensive combat trick, and that's really cool. But actually, you can use to protect your board. It's just that it has a ridiculous synergy with Master Tactician when you just play it end of turn. Like, my favorite is play 2 of these end of turn, and then Master Tactician, and they're all able to attack. And you got 4 guys with 2 attack and 2 speed. Oh well. But that's something that'll only really be fixed with just new cards. We just need new cards. But we won't see them for a while. But anyways, that sums up my thoughts for this video. I kind of veered off into the balancing a little bit. I wanted to throw that out there because I don't want to make a separate video just for that. I will do one to talk about the cards that limit design space, because there are a few, and I'm not sure if the devs have decided to do anything about that yet. But yeah, so now we know we need more positive value, less negative value, less removal, more creation, more awesome stuff, and may this game be the greatest thing that ever happened. Hey, call me an optimist. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves the best of days, and I will see you guys next time.